NURIA MIRO is the headmaster, and MONIKA is the Secretary General of the order they both belong to. They have a degree from the Higher School College of Education in San Diego. They've been participating in different programs at Massachusetts, at Project Zero in Harvard, and in the University of Indiana. They are the authors of An Experience to Share, Multiple Intelligence at Montserrat School, and Intelligent Learning. The title of this presentation is School Transformation for Ownership, Ubiquity, and Accountability. They'll tell us about the keys for change management. They'll tell us about what they've done in enabling their students to become the citizens of the future. Let us welcome NURIA MIRO and MONIKA HORCH.
Good afternoon. Arrastión. Buenas tardes.
It is a pleasure to join you again. We're very grateful to the organizers for giving us the opportunity to participate at such a magnificent international conference. We would like to take the opportunity to share with you the changes that have been implemented at Montserrat School. In a nutshell, changes that have allowed us to free the learning process up. A process that allows our students to learn at any point, wherever they are, making it possible for students to become a major stakeholder of the process itself, leading them to a situation where they are able to respond to the questions, to the challenges they face in their environment in an intelligent way. We're talking about many things here. We're talking about creativity, we're talking about innovation. And for that, let me move into another scenario. Let's talk about sports. High jump, for example. Perhaps those of you who were studying for their degrees in the 60s and the 70s, or who were at school in those years, used to go for high jump in what was called at the time the scissor style. We had a bar about 1.5 meters or above the ground. We had to jump towards the bar, raise one leg, it was usually the right leg, then the other leg, and then jump above the bar and fall on the other side, standing on our 2 feet. There were the other techniques available, of course. They approached the bar, they would position their head forward so that they could prevent the bar from being hit by their knees. That was the main technique until in 1968, during the Olympic Games in Mexico, Dick Fosbury struck the world jumping like this. So he approached the bar, running in an oblique way, and at a certain point he rotated his body and jumped using his back, with his back leaning forward. As you see, he got the gold medal. He jumped way higher than the others. Why could we say that this high jump by Fosbury at that time was something extremely creative and disruptive? Why was it an innovation? Let us take a look at the premises. in a way that can help us understand the change in education. A change in education which, after all, is also about innovation, creativity, and sustainable development. On the one hand, when analyzing that jump by Dick Fosbury, the first thing that comes to our mind is that it was different. No one had ever jumped that way before. It was something new, something different. That could be the initial premise. That was point number one, but it was not just different. If Dick Fosbury had jumped that way and he had hit the bar, he would have probably been considered as being nuts, as someone who tried something in a very unusual way but failed. But he was successful. He jumped above the bar, but not just that. He didn't hit the bar, and he jumped way higher than any of the other athletes. So when talking about creativity, one of the basic elements of good creativity implies that results are better than those achieved by others. Now, if Dick Fosbury had achieved this because he was a very special person, perhaps he had a very flexible back, an unusual spine, a very unique spine, he would have made history as that athlete that was extraordinary himself, achieving something that was also extraordinary. But I'm sure he wasn't the best athlete of his time. In fact, he went to the next Olympics and he never won again. He actually retired from the sport very soon after that. So the fact that he jumped that way forced all of his competitors follow suit. We're talking about something which is not just different, not just better. It is also something that can be replicated, that can be emulated by others, therefore creating a before and an after situation for that high jump. I like this thought, this quote from Dick Fosbury a few years after that. He told us about the current popularity of his style as a wonderful price to everything he had to bear at first. When he used a style that no one liked, he practiced and practiced and started practicing at secondary school. Everyone laughed at him. They thought he was nuts. So why did he practice that way? Because he just wanted to go away from the known standards. And then he reached the Olympics in Mexico and he became a hero. That quote makes me think about something Steve Jobs said. Find whatever you love. And this is true both for your work and for people. Your time is limited. Don't waste your life living the lives of others. Don't let yourself be captured by dogma, which is living in accordance with the thought of others. Have the courage to follow your heart and your intuition. So, for that change, we need a heart, we need an emotion, we need an excitement. This is Daniel Pink saying that human beings have been designed for activity and commitment. We know that the most enriching experiences of our lives never happen when we are looking for the approval of others, but when we listen to our own voice, when we do something we care about, when we do it well, and when we serve a cause that goes well beyond ourselves. As people belonging to a group which is much larger than ourselves, what is the high jump you have in your mind? What is your dream? What are your emotions, your ambitions, your aspirations? The things that will allow you to do something creative. Bearing in mind that creation is always based on something we know. We always create using building blocks that were used before that. So, what is your high jump? And this is what we will talk about in the next few minutes. For example, the high jump for a school located in Barcelona, founded in 1926. The main objective being educating the hearts and the intelligence of our students. After about 90 years, we have students all the way from 1 year to 18 years of age. just above 1,000 students altogether, part of an innovation process. Montserrat School has always been open. We've always done our best to try the best possible methodology to respond to the challenges posed by our students, by the questions raised by our students. We've used neuroscience, amongst other things. We believe in early stimulation for a correct neurological environment. We also use the theory of multiple intelligences, as envisaged by Dr. Gardner. It's been extremely helpful in understanding what the best ways would be for us to enable the intelligence of our students. Obviously, we've applied a lot of psychology, and from the point of view of sociology, it was very clear that we needed to find a way for our students to open up to diversity, for our students to become flexible, to become digital, to use technology as another tool for their learning. And that is the reason why we have decided to use active methodologies and proactive methodologies. These methodologies allow our students to develop their intelligence in real environments. When considering the different options, and starting with the idea of multiple intelligence, we resorted to a number of ideas that we had found when looking for appropriate information sources, with Piaget, with Dewey, Kilpatrick, Brunner, Vygotsky, people that have been researching on lots of different ideas. It was precisely this that proved that everything we had studied before could give us the response that our students were seeking. This is a snapshot, a very straightforward snapshot, a summary of everything we've been doing. We've been focusing on something which is very clear to understand: early stimulation. During primary school, we focus on multiple intelligence, and then moving on into secondary school, we focus on proactive methodologies, active, interactive, proactive methodologies. We could say that the theory of multiple intelligence can be found in many of the activities that we carry out during preschooling years. And these are some of our findings. We believe that this is an adequate response to the challenges that we face in terms of the skills we must develop for our students: time management, creativity, teamwork. We are making our students ready for the 21st century. Let us show you the big picture. After about 20 years of innovation, of big change, of rethinking, of analyzing constantly all those forces that play a role in change, integrating everything we found relevant, we'll do our best to explain how we have evolved. This is a visual image of our model, depicting the 4 major transformations, also described by Ferran Ruiz in his book. 4 transformation elements around the inner circle. The first one will be a transformation of the curriculum, the methodology and the assessment procedures in place, so that our students have the ability to tell us why they do things, what they do, so that they can become tale-tellers and give us their own feedback on the way they learn. On top of that, we have other elements that have had an impact on the role played by students and the role played by teachers. The border between students and teachers has now become more diffused than ever before, and that has made everything more flexible. That has given us the opportunity to create alongside our students. Students create things by themselves and with their classmates, and that has a positive impact on the environment. A change in roles. To cut a long story short, a third transformation would relate to a change in the organization. We needed to find inspiration in other organizations outside by looking at the ways they have changed their shape, their structures, from a more hierarchical approach to a more networked approach. Organizations that focus increasingly so on projects with a combination of profiles, specialized and generic profiles. All of this has an impact on the change in the organization. And finally, last but not least, we've changed the space, the spatial framework. We've redesigned the space in our school, paying attention to all the elements in that space, so that we could shape the physical space in such a way that people could come together and join forces. The student is right at the center because they are the protagonists of the learning process. Objectives are set, and together with the tutor, the coach, the teacher, they are part of the follow-up process. Students are also part of a group, and they meet every week at least once to share their objectives, to share their achievements, and to support each other emotionally. Students have a logbook where they set up a number of goals and a number of strategies and reflect upon both. In this way, we arrive at one of our major elements, ownership. Students become the owners of their own track record. Students have their own portfolio where they gather information about the learning process together with their reflections. The student's portfolio will help each student develop in accordance with all of the elements that must be present in that learning process. We'll now show a video where students tell us about their experience. Another important element, which is closely related to the blog, is my learning progress. Here we describe what we learned throughout the year. There are 4 folders where you can say that you have, for example, improved in grammar, in speaking, in listening, and in my culture in English. For people to see what sort of command you got of the English language, this is an extremely useful project where you can include everything, your strengths, your weaknesses. I think it may be useful for the future so that you can show what you have achieved. For example, I'm about to finish high school and I have that command of English, but perhaps in 2 years from now I am better off or I am worse in my mastery of English. It's a way to show how you have improved. Technology helps us. Technology allows us to help students so that they can develop the necessary skills and become more autonomous in the way they manage everything. Our students create their own environment for learning, what we call PLE. They find the right sources of information, they find the tools they want to use, and they combine them accordingly so that they can use them in the most appropriate manner for their own development. Let us try and explain the 4 transformations. The first one, impacting the curriculum, the methodology and the assessment procedures, not because it is the most important of those 4 transformations, but rather because they are systemically related to each other. When you change any element in any of those 4 transformations, there's always an impact on the other 3. When we talk about transforming the curriculum, this has given us the opportunity to introduce a new curriculum altogether, a curriculum that is adapted to the needs of our students in the 21st century. Here we have catered for those types of intelligence, especially in preschooling years, in primary and secondary school, including Atelier, Reggio Emilia, music, the Suzuki methodology, especially applied to violin, for a more intense development of the development elements of all of our students. We have conducted programs in mathematics and language, basically in every subject, focusing on understanding whilst developing the different intelligences. And then we have another set of elements that accounts for the multidisciplinary approach we want to apply at all times, empowering our students and giving them the chance to face the challenges of the real world. We tell them about entrepreneurship. We help them learn from the city they are part of. We organize intense seminars that last for 3 days, something that is not envisaged by the current curriculum. We also focus on robotics and programming that must become part of the landscape for our students as we understand it. And then we have multilingual learning. We have the integration of the international baccalaureate together with all of those elements that are related to developing global skills and digital skills. Here we see some examples. This is the school garden, the Suzuki methodology applied to violin, chess methodologies with Adriana Salazar's theories. Here we can see one of the multidisciplinary projects in science and technology, STEAM, as we call it. We'll see some explanations from the teacher. How they work is 3 teachers altogether. Above all, this is tailor-made for STEAM subjects, something that has been carried out in many different universities throughout the world. STEAM subjects relate to those disciplines that include science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. As part of these subjects, we have implemented a project which is led by 3 teachers. I'll tell you about the main skills included in the project. The Compass project includes a final product, which is the setting up of a weather station based on a supporting structure. Here we have inputs from the science teachers focusing on weather phenomena, types of winds, etc. In the area of technology, the contents we have included relate to structures and stress on materials. The students get an assignment where they need to calculate the stress which is applied by the weather station on the underlying structure. In that way, they are able to calculate the necessary forces to build the structure. This is about building, and it's also about mathematics. We've worked with the numbers tool, calculating speeds of the wind, and bearing in mind the different types of elements that were needed for the compass to move at the right speed. From the point of view of the artistic side, they focused on decorating the structure, elaborating the presentation, and delivering the presentation to the public. You see that this is a multidisciplinary approach. We believe we need to be people from more than one discipline. All teachers from different disciplines do their best to find the way to reach a common goal. And that's the reason why working as a team is so important. A very enriching experience. As we were saying before, a new curriculum, developing global skills. Through these projects, we enable students as the citizens of the future so that they can understand global issues around them with the necessary skills, the necessary values, and the necessary behaviors to contribute to a world like that. When talking about methodologies, as we said before lunch, the main focus is on PBL, project-based learning, and the development of critical thinking, thinking routines, thinking skills, learning through cooperation, integrating different technologies that allow us to customize everything, to adapt it to the needs of our students. Cooperative learning is another key element. It allows students to work with everyone. They know that they will belong to different groups when changing from one project to another. That will give them a chance to share views with every single classmate of theirs. They will learn values like that of collaboration, like that of individual responsibility. We will now see another project. In preschooling years, these are 3-year-olds.
Means be careful. The person cannot pass. Very good. The Stop, Look and Go project is about transportation and traffic safety. And we chose this topic for various reasons. One is because the school is situated in the city and it's very close to the main highway that surrounds Barcelona. And it's essential, I think, that they learn basic traffic safety rules just to minimise the risk of having an accident themselves. Another reason is for the safety. Safety is a shared responsibility, and I think that children need to learn that their actions also have a consequence, not only for themselves, but also for the people around them, the people who they live with. What happens if it is red? What does red mean?
No pass. No pass.
You cannot pass. It means stop. Children have a natural interest for transportation and traffic, and also for the people who work, like a policeman and a fireman. They really like it. So by choosing a topic that is appealing to them, will actually help the children be keen, enthusiastic to learn.
And of course, we have got the through lines, and the through lines, the first one is, can we make our world a safe place to live and travel? The second one, what's the meaning of shared responsibility? And the third one, and the last one, is, can you imagine a world without wheels?
This year we were really inspired to create learning centres for the children. Also because you can work the multiple intelligence method from Howard and Abner. And we thought, why not just open up the classroom and have the students work independently in different learning areas, learning centres, in which that they can develop in each area of intelligence.
We also have open projects where the students pose the questions and the challenges themselves based on this methodology of design thinking. And then we have the issue of integrating routines and thinking skills. This is year 3 in secondary school, comparing different methodologies. This is the way our students have lived this experience. So this is our conclusion, but we will go one step beyond. What do we have to take into account? The initial question. So, this is an important conclusion that you have reached, but you have to prove how you have arrived at it, using all of these elements here. I believe that this skill is extremely useful when studying because it allows us to synthesize information in an orderly manner, which is straightforward. Together with mental maps, that can be a great way to study any type of content. It will help us organize the information and answer questions that we pose ourselves. This gives us a lot of contents and allows us to organize our minds around the information we get when we go to class. It gives us the necessary skills to respond to questions that are posed in different subjects. This skill has been useful. Now I can organize myself mentally much better than before, using tools that I have never heard of before. It allows me to reach conclusions effectively and, above all, to be flexible and work as part of the team, achieving results which are only possible when working as part of a larger group. And how about playing? Because we have to be excited, we have to enjoy ourselves. And students of 16 years of age doing chemistry. We've created this game for chemistry, where we have all the elements in the periodic table. We need to use 7 pieces of cardboard, trying to combine as many elements as possible in order to create different types of molecules. In order to play the game, you need to have at least 2 elements in each molecule. The main objective of the game is to end up having no pieces of cardboard at the end. We must do our best to arrive at meaningful combinations of atomic elements. This is just a bunch of methodologies that obviously require a different type of assessment. An assessment that focuses on the process way more than on the result. It is evidence-based, and the tools we have here apply to all the fields in the portfolio. These are tools that replace conventional exams, but above all, add a lot of authenticity to all the elements in the learning process. We get feedback constantly. We get feedback from students and from what we call critical friends. And then we have the issue of self-assessment. All of these play a very significant role. We would like now to share with you one of the projects that we have carried out. This is an interdisciplinary project in year 4 of secondary school, 16 years of age. A project including art history, ethics and religion. A project that was created around the subject of what's in it for me. Through art history, we worked on Impressionism. From the point of view of religion, we talked about vocation. And from the point of view of ethics, we focused on the ethics of professions and the values that are needed for any good professional in any field. Throughout the entire process, we carried out different activities, and the final product should be a self-portrait of all the students involved. That is the students' own projection of themselves 10 years from that point in time, depicting what they would look like, and they would need to use an impressionist technique. The final product had different stages, of course. We gave them the opportunity to go for more than one version of that self-portrait. For each version, they would get feedback from the other members of the team. So let's take a look at the process followed by one of our students, Maria. In this first draft, In this first draft, she says, and we're showing you this to give you an idea of how strong this is, how useful it is to count on feedback from our students. We are giving them the opportunity to make mistakes and to improve upon things continuously. So she says, in this first draft, I was a bit lost. That's why my ideas were a bit messy. And since it was the first version, I didn't have the practice nor the expertise on Impressionism. Of course, the important thing here is the thinking process. The piece in itself doesn't tell us as much as she says in her feedback. She wants to be a diplomat. That's why I have depicted myself with a long coat on a suitcase. Knowledge and truth are there because I believe they are essential elements. My hairstyle is discreet to symbolize the type of work. At the center, there is a gap, which is a symbol for the problems that I will be encountering. There are people on the other side, and I need to bridge the gap to help them cross themselves. That was version number 1. Version number 2. In this version, I focused on the fact that we need to use an impressionist technique. This is another type of environment. Not too much of an impressionist technique, I know, but I wanted to be in open air, because it is one of the main features of Impressionism. The train is a symbol of my willingness to travel, and I know that I will have to travel throughout many countries. I will have to learn a lot as a person. I am sitting down to reflect the fact that I'm thinking. I'm also watching, because I love watching. Look at the feedback we get from this girl. She's looking inwards. This is version 3. I have kept the train because it is a very important part of my future, traveling. For the time being, that's the only thing I will do for sure, traveling. Towards the front of the train, there is a headlamp in the locomotive, telling me that if I travel a lot, I will get enlightened. In this fourth version, I have depicted myself in the foreground. I'm looking forward. That is a reflection of the fact that I will need to fight for what I want. I will have to be brave and never give up. How about the final product, the last version? This is it. This is a self-portrait. That's me in the future. I am depicted sideways, as if I'm going to stand up. That means I will never remain sitting down waiting for life to pass by. I will stand up and defend those things I believe in. I'm looking in a very intense way, and I'm thinking. I have a very simple dress on. White is a symbol of the balance I want to strike, and the simplicity of the dress is an image of purity. I have a blue earring, which accounts for the quiet I want to have in my mind. The background is white, uncertainty. That doesn't mean I have to stop doing things. I have to face risks. And besides, it is not where you're going to that matters, but the way that takes you there. I think that whenever a self-assessment helps you achieve these results and giving the best version of yourself, it is well worth an effort. It is not the final destination. It is not the knowledge that we can gather, but rather the way we follow, the track we follow, in order to arrive at those goals. Obviously, these are changes that affect the curriculum, the methodology, and the assessment procedures in place. Therefore, we produce an impact on the role to be played by students. Students are the main actors in this film. They develop their own skills. And that, in turn, has an impact on the role played by the teacher. The teacher now becomes a guide, a facilitator. The teacher becomes the person that designs, that puts together the contents. And of course, it is another stakeholder that needs to act accordingly so that all those skills can be developed. In our school, teachers act as tutors. All of our teachers are tutors. We have groups of 60 people that have 3 tutors. So each teacher has an added responsibility. But apart from being a tutor, they also teach a subject. They're also generic teachers responsible for the proper development of their teachers, be their students part of their group or not. And all of our teachers are members of teams. Teachers are grouped together by teaching teams and develop their teaching within those teams. This new role played by the teacher is helping us foster the responsibility of our students in order to reach accountability. They are autonomous. Our students are autonomous, but they must render accounts before their own classmates and before society. So it's team teaching for tutors and for subjects. Teachers are grouped together in more than one discipline, with larger groups of students, 60 to 70 people in each group. There are different ways to tackle this, of course. They are structured in different ways. So we have different combinations of approaches. One teaches, another one observes, the other teaches, the other assists. There's also a methodology where parallel teaching is applied. We can also apply station teaching. So we have the teachers, usually in teams of 3. That would be the average number. That would be 3 teachers for every 60 to 70 students. On a day-to-day basis, teachers work on their own training. They work doing research as they design new projects, as they keep thinking about how to develop those projects and how students respond to the main elements. They give their colleagues constructive criticisms whilst enriching their own universe and their own role as teachers. All of these transformations have an impact on the organization itself, as you can imagine. Reshaping and rearranging the physical space. Timetables have been impacted, of course. For example, we have seminars that may last for half a day, or even more than one day, with a very wide range of offers, different types of sessions, so that students can choose more than one option. Students are free to design their own track and get together at the workshops of their choice. They can also decide to go for self-study at the higher levels. So this is an overall new way of understanding the role played by teachers and the role played by the organization as a whole. This is helping us learn anywhere, at any point in time, bearing in mind that this is connected learning we're talking about, and bearing in mind that there are options to learn outside the school, always paying attention to the interests of our students, always paying attention to the type of connections they have and the relationships we have with people inside and outside of the school. I hope you've had coffee just after lunch, because there's one more transformation to talk about, okay? The transformation of physical space. When we talk about spaces for learning, we talk about physical spaces, but we're also talking about cultural spaces and virtual spaces. we have to take into account the changes that need to be implemented to respond to all of these modifications of the environment. We can reshape the physical space, giving students the opportunity to spend time with themselves, so that students find their own place. It's what we call cave time. Lots of opportunities here and there for students to be autonomous, to spend time doing all sorts of different things, so that they can think by themselves in a way that impacts their own development. We're also talking about physical spaces where we can have a fire camp, as Thornburg calls it. We get students together as well. We take them to perhaps a sports pitch, giving them some expert judgment on the things we are doing. So it's different sorts of things. And then we have what we call the watering hole, a place where students will spend a long time collaborating with each other, acquiring knowledge and seeking creativity. Physical spaces, which we want to have as transparent as possible. We use natural light as much as we can, with a pleasing atmosphere in terms of the color, the ceilings, the windows, with the right type of equipment and resources, so that students can have their own time to themselves. We wanted to show you this video. You see for yourself what happened in the architecture. A change in the architecture that has been happening over recent years.
Tot això que feu, el mengeu, ho feu. Mengeu tot en un paper.
La tecnología está más presente a partir de cuarto de primaria.
Technology acquires an even more significant presence after the 4th year in primary school. We work on an individual basis as well. There's all sorts of methodologies for students to share their views.
Grupos aquí de primero y segundo de primaria.
There are groups here from primary school that can get together. This is a group from year 2. They were doing some other activity, and now they're getting together. There are no fixed tables or desks or chairs for anyone. They can freely move around, depending on the project and depending on the group they join. This gives students the opportunity to share their views. In primary school, every day we have at least one student explaining what they have been doing, trying to stick to the methodology of science. They internalize the methodology. They're working in this class together, but then now they're going to split into 2 different groups. You see that we can move the boards so that we can split groups in different ways very quickly. We wanted to show you how this works. And then there's also how important it is to cater for the culture of our school. This has an impact on students, of course, but the way we do things has an impact on everyone. And we're talking about parents. We make parents become experts in some of our projects. And then we have the cook that we have in the school and the local residents in the neighboring communities. And we take into account the physical space, but obviously we must pay attention to the digital space, to the virtual space where people can share knowledge, the virtual space where students can learn from other places, from other schools, from universities, for them to be proficient in e-learning so that they can use it anywhere. But above all, when we're talking about options, when we're talking about giving students a wide range of possibilities, we offer them what we call a learning landscape, which is as rich as possible. In order to achieve that, we need a combination of freedom and structure. It is here that the digital platform plays a very important role. Our digital platform gives us the possibility to show students visually what options they can follow. When there's only one option, it is very easy for the teacher to explain, but when we have more, when we have 5, 10, or even 20 different options, we need a visual approach so that students can comprehend easily what opportunities they have. It gives also the students the possibility to define what is optional and what is compulsory, so that they can choose. And because we cater for the needs of all of our students at different points in time, we always wonder how we can know how each student is doing and how they can know themselves. In order to do that, we have designed some follow-up methodologies, again using digital tools. These tools show exactly where each student is at all points in that cycle. So 4 transformations, 4 major transformations as the building blocks of this customized environment. A customized environment for learning, a very flexible way of learning, which can happen at any point in time and anywhere. Rather than teaching our students about things, our teachers share experiences with our students. Above all, we would like to see our students becoming agents of learning, knowledge producers, global citizens, and self-reflecting humans. At the end of the day, this is what we would like to achieve in education. Just a few images we got from Dr. Howard Gardner when he paid a visit to us. So some food for thought and an invitation for you to come and visit us. I can assure you, it was a major event.
I really do not remember the details, and it would be wrong to pretend that I do, but let me say that I thought the school 10 years ago was a very good school, and I was happy to keep contact and to have colleagues visit and so on. But when I saw it in 2013, I said, you know, this is an amazing school. So I think it's become either more of the way that it was or better the way it was. It's much larger, and of course it's much more wired than it was before. And there's the use of ideas from Project Zero when I worked, their connections to the Design for Change in India, their connections with robotics in Lego. And in general, I think it's a school that really it's operating now on the world stage, not just on the Barcelona stage. I always say that there are two principal educational implications of multiple intelligences. I call them individuation and pluralization. Individuation means you take the differences among children seriously and you try to teach them in ways in which they can learn, and you try to let them show what it is that they learn and understand. So if I see a teacher teaching everybody the same way, I would say that person is not sensitive to multiple intelligences. Pluralization means deciding what's important and teaching it in lots of ways, not just in one way. And so again, if a teacher says to me, Johnny, there's only one right way to learn this, and Johnny didn't learn it that way, so he'll never learn it. Again, that's a very non-multiple intelligences way. The other thing which relates to multiple intelligences is you should have lots of different opportunities in school to make things, to try things out, and nobody should dictate to you, you have to do it one way. The important thing is to be able to do it, and you can decide which way. So those are the kinds of signs that the school is multiple intelligences, whether or not they've ever heard of me. There are many places where they have all my intelligences displayed on the wall, but when I look in the classroom, I say they're not taking the multiple intelligences seriously.
Pues muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.